What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got two more anomalies to be having a look at. Now, we know that there are a minimum of 10 anomalies in Worlds Collide. And we know that because one of the cards we looked at yesterday was Valucanth, and Valucanth is anomaly number 10. Now, including the two we're going to be looking at in today's video, that makes 8. So there are, at a minimum, 2 more anomalies which are going to be in Worlds Collide that we haven't seen yet. 10 seems like a pretty nice round number, and you would imagine that if there were any more we'd have seen them. Having said that, we've yet to see number 5 and we've yet to see number 9, so hey, when they're both revealed, that gives us one more anomaly video to do. And you know me, ladies and gentlemen, I like doing videos. I like doing Keyforge videos, and I'll be honest with you, there isn't much that is exciting me in the same way that anomalies are exciting me right now. They are wonderful. So starting off in today's video, let's have a look at Orb of Wonder, the kind of card I didn't think we were going to see in Keyforge. So Orb of Wonder is an artifact, and it has an Omni ability, that is to say an ability that can be used on your turn regardless of which is your active house. And what you do is you sacrifice Orb of Wonder and then search your deck for any card and add it to your hand. That is over the top phenomenal. And this really depends on the kind of game that we're in. Now, if we flick over into the Pokemon trading card game, and you might know I dabble into Pokemon TCG every so often, we end up having cards like Computer Search, for instance, that let you search for any one card. But that is a type of card where you can only have one of any description in your deck, an A-Spec card, and you've got to discard 2 cards in your hand to do so. It's extremely difficult. Searching for any card is redonkulous, and it's hard to even just overstate how good this is. And honestly, it's kind of hard to give examples because there's just so many great ones. But let's give a few, right? Let's say, now this is going to be extremely rare, but you know that there's sooner or later going to be a deck that has Ghost Form, Orb of Wonder, and something like Ember Imp or Restringuntus, or just some amazing card with a permanent ability, i.e. an ability that is just there. Restringuntus locks your opponent out of one house, Ember Imp restricts them to playing 2 cards per turn, etc. So what you do is you hold the creature in your hand until you've got your artifact down. You play your artifact. When you can use it, you use it. Play down the creature, and of course what you search for is a ghost form to attach it. Now admittedly, like I say, you would imagine unless anomalies are strictly limited to 1 per deck, sooner or later there's going to be something like that. But that is, shall we say, a rather extreme example. How about something a little bit more pedestrian? How about being able to go and get a Martian Generosity when you've got a Key Abduction in hand? Now again, these are Mars cards, they are not going to be in Worlds Collide, but it's just an example of how silly it can be. Martian Generosity will get your draw power, so then Key Abduction is more likely to fire because you've got a handful of cards, and Key Abduction lets you forge at +9 current cost, reduced by 1 amber for each card in your hand. So it's going to allow you to pull off some very cheeky combos. But it's not just about combos. I mean, a card like Interdimensional Graft is going to be phenomenal with this. Interdimensional Graft, you play it, and if your opponent forges a key on their next turn, they must give you their remaining amber. Well, if you see that your opponent's got 12 amber, you know they're going to be forging for 6, sacrifice your artifact, grab an Interdimensional Graft, and guarantee yourself 6 amber. Remember, your opponent has to forge at the beginning of their turn, so there's literally no way around it. If you drop Interdimensional Graft, you are going to get the amber, and you will know exactly how much amber you're actually going to get. So it's kind of phenomenal in that regard. One of the ways to think about this card is, It's like being able to have any card you like archived whenever you like. Now, there is actually one downside to this card, and it is a fairly lengthy downside. You only search your deck, you do not search your discard pile, so it doesn't allow you to research for cards. And that's a little bit sad, but being able to search for a key charge the turn after your opponent drops Miasma to stop you forging a key, just so many uses. And this is one of those cards where you want to see how good it is, just play the game. And at some point during the game, just imagine you could search your deck for any card, and at that point you'll see quite how ridiculously over the top, brilliantly, brokenly powerful this card actually is. Although the usual rule applies, this is an artifact, so there are things that your opponent can do. So, I mean, it's kind of difficult, but kind of cheeky. Let's say you play it down. Remember, it goes down exhausted, so you have to wait a turn to use it. If your opponent goes and drops something like a remote access, they can use the artifact as if it were theirs, and we did have it confirmed recently that will include sacrificing it. Or something like a poltergeist that uses an artifact controlled by any player as if it were theirs and then destroys it. Or even if your opponent has a Nexus down, you cannot play this. Because if your opponent has a Nexus down, they can just choose Shadows and then use the opponent's artifact and sacrifice it. So this isn't a perfect card. There are anti-artifact cards abound. Your opponent can use it using certain cards, and it doesn't let you get anything from your discard pile, only your deck. But make no mistake, this is a phenomenal card. Usual rule, yes, I know it's in Brobnar, but it can come in any deck. And shout out to decksofkeyforge.com for collecting together all of the spoilers. That is where the card image came from. So one more anomaly we need to talk about, though like I say, there are at least 2 in the set that we haven't seen. I assume only 2. And there will be a video on them when they are revealed. Memeliff. Now, although it comes the image from decksofkeyforge.com, it did originate at repout.com, as you can see from the stamp on the card. And it is another artifact. Yeah, we grouped them into artifacts. It's almost like I'm thinking about these videos in advance. And it's got an action whereby you graft an action card from your hand onto Memeliff, or you trigger the play effect of an action card that is already grafted onto Memeliff. So either you use a card that's grafted onto it, or you graft a new card onto it. And this should remind you of another one of these anomalies that we've seen so far, Infomancer. Infomancer, when you play it, grafts an action card from your hand onto it, and when you reap, you trigger the play effect of an action card grafted onto Infomancer. Well, here, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a very similar thing going on, except you can do it as often as you like. However, it is slower. Play it down, it's exhausted, you got to wait till you're ready at the end of your turn. Next turn, you graft the first action card, and on the third turn, you trigger the play effect of an action card. That's kinda harsh. Now, bearing in mind, this is not an Omni ability, and it will be linked to one of the 3 houses in your deck. That means that you play it, nothing. Graft a card onto it, nothing. And then the third turn you do it. And remember that if you graft a card onto it on the second turn it's there, and your opponent uses something like a poltergeist, they can actually use it and destroy the artifact before you ever get to do so. One of the things I particularly enjoy about Memeliff, what you could do is use something like remote access to just graft one of your action cards to it, just for your opponent to use on a later turn. I don't know why you would. It would be very counterintuitive to winning, but I find it kind of delightful and adorable that you could use a remote access just to graft an action card on here for your opponent to use later. It's kind of hilarious. I'm not a fan of Memeliff, if I'm honest with you. I think it is probably, if not the weakest anomaly we've seen, certainly one of the weakest. I don't think it's a bad card by any stretch. I think it is a slow card where you are giving your opponent plenty of time to go ahead and try and counter it. I love the idea that you could put something like a Nerve Blast down under it, and then every turn you get an extra Nerve Blast where you steal an amber and deal 2 damage to a creature. I think that is absolutely wonderful. I love the idea of grafting a key charge to it or a key abduction and then just having it there as a key cheat whenever you want it. And certainly if your opponent isn't playing any artifact hate, although some of the artifacts in Worlds Collide make me think we're really going to need to start doing so more often, then you do have a huge advantage, but it is literally play it down exhausted, action graft, and then the next time you can trigger it. Now, if in the future we get a way to graft onto Memeliff without having to take our essentially second turn to do so, it will be significantly better. But also do bear in mind that if you play a card under this and your opponent uses something like Poltergeist, then you're wasting an action card that you never got to use. Certainly getting rid of Memeliff will be far more difficult than getting rid of Infomancer because it's a creature, but you have been warned, ladies and gentlemen. You have been warned. I like this card, but it doesn't quite fill me with unbridled joy like some of the other ones that we've seen in terms of the anomalies. But at this stage, I'd like to know what you think about these 2 cards, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games, like Keyforge and anything else that takes my fancy. And do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and so on. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.